Followed by Rhoda Grant.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome this proposed legislation and believe that it is a huge step on the way to tackling the true nature of domestic abuse. Domestic abuse, as many other speakers have already said, is traditionally thought of as an issue that involves physical violence. However, non-physical forms of abuse such as emotional abuse, controlling behaviour and coercive behaviour can have deeply damaging impact on families. Up until now, it has been considered difficult to prosecute those who are involved in these types of behaviour, and that point has been made already by the Cabinet Secretary, meaning that often abusers are not brought to justice. With this bill, I believe that victims will be much more likely to have their voices heard by the justice system, and perpetrators will no longer find it possible to simply slip through the net. The investment of £20 million over the period between 2015 and 2018 has been vital in ensuring that those suffering from all forms of domestic abuse are given the support that's needed. And I have witnessed initiatives such as the Change Programme being run in South Lanarkshire prove very effective and make a real difference to victims, perpetrators and families. This extra investment has also provided additional community-based sentencing options to the courts and has helped to make it clear that no form of domestic violence will be tolerated. With the changes in law and the new support given to the police and prosecutors, this government will be helping to change the lives of many women and children who have been living with abuse for so long. Presiding Officer, around 60,000 incidents of domestic abuse are reported to the police each year, a figure we've already heard, and of which 79% involved a female victim and a male perpetrator. We must bear in mind that while many women and children experiencing domestic abuse are now reporting incidents of abuse to the police or accessing the services of brilliant organisations such as Women's Aid, EVA and Assist, many do not feel in a position to do so and continue to suffer in silence, often with highly damaging and tragic consequences. As it currently stands, Women's Aid groups in Scotland are dealing with somewhere in the region of 25,000 new cases of women, children and young people each year who are in need of support after experiencing domestic abuse. This breaks down to around 475 new cases every week, which shows both the prevalence of domestic abuse and the impact it is having on so many lives. Let's stop to think about that for just a wee second. 475 previously unidentified women are approaching just one charity organisation every week to seek support. That's a startling figure and another reason why I welcome this legislation. For the women and children who do not come to organisations like Women's Aid, it is not just emotional support that is needed. Assistance with practical issues such as housing, safety planning, financial assistance and legal protection are vital, and these issues often present barriers to women looking to move away from the abusive situation. Leaving an abusive partner can have so many implications for women. Many lose their homes, are forced to move around, are alienated from support networks and friends, lose access to childcare, are forced to disrupt their children's routines and education, and often incur financial hardship, to name just a few. Earlier this week, we had a debate in the Chamber about the Government's pledge to build 50,000 new affordable and social homes. This is a much-needed commitment with so many people experiencing homelessness. I mention this because we know that almost 3/4 of people declaring themselves as homeless are women, and that the third most common reason for homeless applications in Scotland is due to violent or abusive disputes within the household. In my experience as a social worker, many women and children risk a lot just by leaving. They can often become homeless, lose their possessions and suffer financial destitution in a bid to escape the everyday terror of their abusers. Presiding Officer, while a figure of 79% shows an overwhelming number of victims are women, it is important that we take the time to recognise, as other speakers have done, that men can also be victims of domestic abuse. Figures from the Male Domestic Abuse Support Service, which is part of the Abused Men in Scotland organisation based in Edinburgh, show an increase in the number of men seeking support over the past 2 years. My own area of North Lanarkshire has seen the number of men seeking support almost double in the last 12 months. It is worth noting that male victims are even less likely than female victims to seek support, and I would encourage more investment in raising awareness in this area. Presiding Officer, I recently met with Monklands Women's Aid to learn more about the work they do within my constituency to support women and children whose lives have been affected by domestic abuse. While there I met with victims of domestic abuse, including some who had used some of the 3 refuge centres across Coatbridge, and heard of the horror of their experiences and of the ongoing support Monklands Women's Aid seeks to provide. Many women were not initially aware that they were in fact victims of abuse due to the controlling and isolating actions of their partner, and I welcome that the new offence will provide clarity for victims that what is happening to them is a criminal act. Presiding Officer, when we discuss the domestic abuse, we forget that there are other victims in the household. Although it's been mentioned today, when an adult suffers at the hands of their partner, any children in the relationship suffer also. Even just witnessing physical or mental abuse of a parent can have a long-term negative impact. Many children who are in this position are referred to the children's reporter, social work, and may even be subject to child protection regulation. In my time as a social worker, I worked with a lot of families where the children had experienced domestic abuse. While good progress has been made, it is clear that there is more to be done in changing the perceptions of what constitutes domestic violence. Psychological abuse, exertion of control, over all aspects of a partner's day-to-day life is completely unacceptable, and I welcome these proposals to ensure that this will now be a criminal offence. Thank you.